Hey guys, Dazzler Magic here, and all you deck builders out there have been loving this series, so let's continue it with Rivals of Ixalan. You kinda should just watch the other ones, but if you're just joining us, these are cards that might not be on everyone's radar, or they used to be good a long time ago, or people thought they were good during pre-orders, and then it never came to anything, but now they might come back as a really good card. In other words, they're overlooked but awesome. And I'm not saying, oh my gosh, play these immediately, you can build the best deck out of them. I'm just saying, don't forget about these cards if you're deck building, because they might be good additions. So first, Journey to Eternity. This is a fun one because it kind of plays around removal to an extent. You throw it on a creature that you control, and then when it dies, it immediately returns to the battlefield under your control, so they have to kill it twice. Then you flip this, so what is it on the other side? Well, it turns into Atlas Cave of Eternity, which I think was not anywhere in the storyline. I've always found that weird. So you can add 1 mana of any color, that's cool, wonderful land, but also, if you pay 5, you can directly return any creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Wow. It's very easy to flip this, and if it does flip, the game's basically over. I mean, they have to keep killing the best creature that you have over and over and over. I mean, they can exile it, they could destroy this with the right card, okay. But still, I mean, the sheer power of this, I'm shocked that it didn't immediately take off. But now that Golgari's a thing, oh my gosh, people are starting to play this, so figured I'd lead off with one that's not very subtle. Next up, another pirate spell, Buccaneers Bravado. Cost 2, it's instant speed, and you can choose one. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains first strike until end of turn. Or a pirate gets +1/+1 and double strike. Well, people are like, oh, I'm not running pirates, I can't run this. No, you can. I mean, it's not sure strike, but I mean, +1 and +1 and first strike. Between those three, you're either going to save it or screw with combat or something. So just, keep this in mind if you're running like a sure strike mentor kind of thing. Next up, Curious Obsession. Yeah, I think people know about this card, but I added it anyway. Enchant creature for 1, wonderful. It gets +1/+1, so, that by itself is worth it. But then also, when this creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Whoa. People are putting this in unblockable creatures, watch out. Now also at the beginning of your end step, if you didn't attack with a creature this turn, just any creature at all, not necessarily the enchanted one, sacrifice Curious Obsession. So that kind of sucks, but that's like the offset for how powerful this is. Hey, card draw. I like it. Put it on a flyer. Put it on an unblockable. It's a damn good card. With the amount of removal in standard right now, I mean, watch out, but still, it's blue. You might be able to cover it. Next up, Dire Fleet Daredevil. Oh my gosh, is this card good. So it's a 2/1 for 2 with first strike. Right off the bat, that's amazing. Then, when it enters battlefield, exile target instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard. You may cast that card this turn, and you may spend mana as though it were any mana, or just any color, whatever you get it. You've heard the phrase before. If you do end up casting it, exile it. So this drops in, just shuts down combat for anything with 2 toughness, and then also you get to hit them with one of their own spells. And the best part is you'll probably have the mana open to cast whatever you just basically stole, because this only casts 2. It's also not double red. In my opinion, it's also not red. This is clearly a blue card, but whatever. I don't know why more people aren't playing this. I really don't. Next up, we got Dire Fleet Poisoner. I just love this because it's very creative removal with also like a little bit of an aggressive surprise option. So it's a 2/2 for 2 with Flash and Death Touch. I mean, you drop it in, ignore the bottom part. You're probably not playing pirates. They're not great. But you just drop it in, block something, it's gone. I mean, it's basically a 2-cost removal spell. But it has the option of being a pseudo haste creature. You flash it in on their end step and then swing with it the next turn, and there you go. Next up, we've got Elaine the Dusk Rose. Did people forget this was a card? Because I sure as hell haven't seen anybody playing this. You want to play around control, especially if you're playing Black-White Vampires or Black-White Knights? Put in this absolute beast. Now, it does have to stay out for a while, so it's a 1/1 lifelinker for 4. That kind of turns people off a little bit. But it is a vampire. It'll probably be a 2/2. Whenever another creature dies, at all, your side, their side, anything, and hello, 2 kill colors, put a 1/1 counter on Elaine to the Dusk Rose. So then her lifelink gets bigger and, she becomes a hazard. And then when she dies, create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is Elaine's power. And of course, you could boost her with like a little 1-cost +2/+2 right before she dies. That would be funny. I mean, there's, oh, you have to kill my creature twice. And then there's like Worm Coil Engine on steroids. So next up, we've got Everdon Champion. This thing, it's astonishing that people aren't playing this in certain decks. It is double white, but who cares? So it's a 3-cost 2/2, and it cannot be dealt combat damage. Now, that's not the way it reads, but that's what it does. It says prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to Everdon Champion. So they could just shock it, they could lightning strike it, okay. But other than that, and I know, okay, Trample gets past it, this thing is unbeatable in combat. You could block a 50-50 and nothing happens. Death Touch is prevented. It plays around First Strike. It plays around Double Strike. This would be just a fun sideboard card in certain circumstances. Next up, we've got Mission Briefing Jr., Flood of Recollection. You pay 2 blue, that sounds familiar, and then return instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand, exile Flood of Recollection. Okay, Mission Briefing is Surveil 2 and instant speed, but you only have until the end of turn to cast it. This is sorcery speed. You can cast it whenever you want because it goes directly to your hand. In some decks, that's a toss-up. It's equivalent, and in some decks, it's not. The other problem is if you went and got something with Mission Briefing and then cast it, I believe it's exiled, so you can't target it again. But hey, Snapcaster Mage, Torrential Gear Hulk, Mission Briefing, Flood of Recollection. It will be worth it every single time to go get a kill spell if it's a really good kill spell. Like we're talking Vraska's or that Surveil 2 4-cost thing. Oh yeah, Price of Fame. This card makes it sort of seem like you're almost running 8 of each of them. So not ideal in all circumstances, but just remember that it's a thing. And oh my gosh, grabbing River's Rebuke twice? Oh my gosh, Settle the Wreckage? Go get that again? That'll be a treat for the whole family. Next up, this card is really stupid, but it won me 2 pre-release games, so I thought I'd throw it in. If you suddenly say, oh, I should run that in my deck, more power to you, but that would be weird. So it's a 6-cost enchantment, Form of the Dinosaur. When it enters the battlefield, your life total becomes 15, whether it was higher or lower, and usually at the pre-release, mine was like 29. And at the beginning of your upkeep, Form of the Dinosaur deals 15 damage to target creature an opponent controls, and that creature deals damage equal to its power to you. It's recurring removal, which is really the only thing this has going for it. It really is really quite funny. I mean, I could see this being played in like a Super Friends deck for sure. You would almost have to have life gain to back it up, but hey, Boros. I mean, and people are playing like mixed Boros semi-mentor. So yeah, want to have some fun? Play this. Next up, Gleaming Barrier. It's just simply a 0/4, which blocks just about everything in the game, but the whole point is it's not like 8. You want it to die because when it does, you get a treasure, and it's a 2-drop. Put it in anything. Bye-bye Red Rush, and if they're dumb enough to burn one of their 4 damage red spells on it, they just accelerated you. It's really quite a good wall. I like it a lot. Next up, Golden Guardian. Now this one's interesting. It's a 4/4 with Defender for 4, so okay, whatever. I mean, that can do some damage. And if you pay 2 at any time, Golden Guardian fights another target creature you control, one that you control, not they control, preferably one with lifelink. When Golden Guardian dies this turn, return it to the battlefield transformed under your control. So he stands there and messes with combat, and, you know, a 4/4 ain't no joke, but then if you get out something big enough to kill it, you just pay 2 force fight it, and you get this. So you can tap it, it's a land, add 2 mana of any one color to your mana pool, so that's crazy. But if you had something big enough to kill this, do you really need more mana? I mean, do you ever not need more mana? More mana is wonderful. But get this, you can pay 4, tap it, and create a 4/4 colorless Golem artifact creature token. You do that every turn, and oh my gosh. So here's the thing people aren't realizing. You could have this force fight a 0/1. I mean, it doesn't matter. And then it says when it dies this turn, not if it dies during that interaction I just referenced. You could just Sarkhan's Unsealing this. I mean, hit this with your own red spell. This is a Sarkhan's Unsealing deck card right here, for sure. Need something on the ground to cover dragons? Go for it. Want some kind of weird, obscure win con? Go for it. I mean, they're not going to be able to blow this up once it flips. The game's basically over at that point if you can get them out quick enough. And if you just simply paid 4 for a 4/4 with Defender, then, I mean, okay. He probably did something. So there's really no downside. There's no backfire here. It's just, you got to have the right kind of deck. Next up, we've got Watley. You might be thinking, how the hell could anyone not remember to use a Planeswalker? Are you crazy? You'd be surprised how stupid the Convoke deck players are. So if you're going to swarm somebody, we've got the Appeal clone, Might of the Masses, and then we've got Watley. Remember the 2-color Nissa with X in her cost, and people are like, oh my god, you can bring her over for like 10 loyalty, she's unkillable. Let me introduce you to Watley. +1, put a loyalty counter on her for each creature you control, so there's 10. That's fine, you only got to hit her for 14 then, because it'd be 10 +1 +3. Good luck with that. You're going to -8 her the exact next turn. The emblem says whenever a creature enters the battlefield, not just cast, but enters the battlefield, and it doesn't say non-token. It should have. Draw a card. So that's the end of that. And then -1. Target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So you could mix this with a trample enchantment, a trample granter, a creature that already has trample, a flyer, anything, a lifelinker, double down with Might of the Masses. It doesn't matter. You just drop this and boom. So this and Might of the Masses are the two cards that most easily help you win when you can't pull your Convoke bombs. You're just sitting there with a bunch of little shorties chump blocking and trying to stay alive. So don't forget to consider her for Convoke. I think she's still under like $7 probably. Next up is Protean Raider. He's an Izzet pirate, I guess. Honorary Izzet member. He's a 2/2 for 3 and he has raid. If you attack with a creature this turn, you may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. You know how Izzet has trouble blowing certain things up with certain spells, usually anything with a toughness 6 or above? Just make one. I would drop 1 or 2 of these into every single Izzet deck because it's basically Mirage Mirror but less flexible, but you don't have to keep paying for it. I mean, a cloner for 3 in a deck that struggles to get rid of really big stuff, that's crazy. But wait, there's more. This works if you bring him out of the graveyard directly into play instead of just casting. It says when he enters the battlefield. He also literally enters the battlefield as the creature, so if they have a whenever this creature enters the battlefield, do this, you still get the effect. Also, I'm about 63% sure that you can, target might not be the right word, but you can copy a hexproof creature. Somehow that never made it to the rulings. What the hell? It just says it enters as, it doesn't say target. So, I would think it can, but then again, I would think that would be one of the rulings. So, can't blow up a Carnage Tyrant? Get your own. Guys, Izzet, Dimir, and Golgari are among the best 3 decks in the entire world right now, and this is a 25-cent card. I don't care if it doesn't interact with the rest of the deck. You get to clone the best thing on the field. That's the interaction. Next up, another Planeswalker, but I mean, come on, you honestly forgot this guy existed. So 1, buy him up before Rakdos gets released. That's pretty obvious. I mean, he is $8. That's not that cheap. But check this out. I mean, his +1, which by the way, he is 4 loyalty for 5, but that just indicates he's really strong and they had to make it not 5. So +1, each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. I mean, there goes the game. I mean, that's like that Dimir Flicker disinformation crap, but in Planeswalker form. Oh, and it doesn't cost mana. And then -3, gain control of target creature until end of turn. This is hilarious. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step if it has converted mana cost 3 or less. So kidnap it and auto-sack it, which there are whole decks dedicated to that. By the way, the deck this would actually right now go in is the unkillable Phoenix, maybe even resembling skeleton loop deck. Taking the pressure off your life total would be very smart, and really both those abilities fit pretty damn good with it. And then, of course, -8, each opponent loses life equal to the number of cards in his or her graveyard. Kaboom! Cannon blast to your face. I mean, that's twice as good right now in the meta as it was when this card was first printed. Guys, if you have Rekindling Phoenix as a bodyguard for this guy, he is not going to die anytime soon. Also, anybody wondering if Super Friends is going to be a thing within a couple weeks, and also if 5-color Gate Super Friends is going to be a thing? I'm a little worried about that. I mean, I hate Mill and I hate Red Rush turn 4 garbage, but I will tell you, Super Friends is probably the most hated deck archetype I've ever seen in my entire life. Well, I mean, there's Infect, but I mean in Standard. In fact, I didn't play when Infect was Standard. I heard it was wonderful. Sarcastically. Next up, Donnas Climb. Merfolk are kind of back. People are playing it. I think it's mostly on Arena, but 3 people at my LGS are playing it, so I mean, it's dirt cheap and it's pretty good. You can do the tap and bounce or the all-in unblockable with Curious. I mean, you could go control split. There's really 3 different ways to build it. But hey, this is on color. So at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So that's automatically awesome. I mean, that's like that old school White Siege card. Then, if that creature has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, in other words, if you're playing Merfolk, transform this. So on the other side, we've got add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Wonderful. But also, you can pay 3 with a mixed color there, and target creature you control gains flying and gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is its power. So discount Double Strike with discount unblockable. Yeah, I've had people flip this on X-Mage months ago, and it was bad. It was virtually impossible to beat them at that point, especially since I couldn't target their freaking Merfolk. So if you're playing those 2 colors and you're doing anything with counters, which I know that's a little narrow, don't forget that card. Next up, Gruesome Fate. This is very interesting that nobody's playing this right now. So sorcery speed, pay 3, and each opponent loses 1 life for each creature you control. I mean, it's not like Demir's flooding creatures, but you could put this in a Knight's deck, maybe if it had a high token dump or something like that. But I mean, just think about this. You could do 10 damage with 3 mana, like easily, especially in a vampire token deck. And how are they going to stop it? I mean, they counter the spell or that's it. They die. I mean, it's just real simple. Not much more has to be said about it. So next up is Hornswoggle, which has the coolest name ever. It is a counter spell that only targets creatures, and it costs 3, but it's not double blue or anything crazy. So I would leave this in your sideboard if you're playing something with heavy counter spell capabilities, because you counter a creature spell and then create a treasure. I mean, 5 sets and a bunch of control, things are pretty slow right now. I would probably put this in instead of Essence Scatter. I realistically would. If I knew the deck had a lot of mana, I mean, that difference between 2 and 3 is 50% more mana and, like, effectively 3 turns later in the game, sort of. Yeah, I mean, it's no joke, but if you think you can get away with it, I mean, push the benefit. You want to get as much benefit as you can out of counterspells, not just, ooh, I traded card for card. Cross my fingers, hope the rest of the game goes well. No, give yourself an ongoing advantage. Next up, Jungle Creeper. If you are playing Golgari, do not forget that this exists. Oh my gosh. So you pay 3, it's a 3/3. Wonderful. Pay 5, return it from your graveyard to your hand. Yes, you have to recast it, who cares? This thing can be killed over and over and over and over and over. The only problem is, I guess overall reassembling skeleton is better, but this is a 3/3, so I mean, if you're going to chump block with it or something, you might get a little bit more mileage out of it. I don't love that this can be lightning struck, but I mean, if you run this with reassembling skeleton, that'd be pretty funny. There was a deck that ran nothing but Resurrection, and it was 3 color, and it was before rotation. Like, literally one person on X-Mage was playing it, but oh my gosh, that thing, to say it played around control would be an understatement. So just keep this on your radar. It's not, like, ideal, but it's pretty good. Next up, Martyr of Dusk. It's a 2/1 for 2, and when it dies, create a 1/1 white vampire with lifelink. So you have to kill it twice. It plays around removal. That simple. I mean, just stuff you have to kill twice. There's so much control and removal right now. Why not? Next up, Mutiny. Now, people forget about this. It's a 1 cost. Yeah, it's sorcery. Who cares? It costs 1. Get over it. This is hilarious. So target creature an opponent controls deals damage equal to its power to another target creature that player controls. So it's not a force fight, but then again, it's not green. You have one of their creatures kill one of their other creatures, basically. Now, it's not a true force fight. It just deals damage equal to its power. If it has lifelink, they got the lifelink. But yeah, you could just have Ghalta kill the thing next to it. Also, if Ghalta took, 8 damage, you could have one of their 6 damage creatures hit this second main phase, and boom, Ghalta's dead. I mean, against the right deck, this is as good as Justice Strike, but half the mana and half the number of colors. Yeah, a 1-cost red removal this good, and it's like, do you really need to cast a removal if there's only 1 creature in play? Probably not. Not under most circumstances, so don't forget about this card. It is hilarious. Next up, Path of Metal. I really like this one. It's legendary, 2-cost, drop it early, let's go. So when it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each creature that doesn't have first strike, double strike, vigilance, or haste. So you gotta put this in a trick deck. The closest it would get is some kind of weird 3-color knights. But whatever, it's still a 1 sweeper. I mean, that's kind of cool. But then also, whenever you attack with at least 2 creatures that have first strike, double strike, vigilance, and or haste, transform this. Now see, this could go in Mentor, roughly. So then it becomes this wonderful tower. You can add 1 mana of any color, that's cool. Pay 2, fry them for 2, that's cool. And then pay 3. Choose a creature at random that attack this turn, destroy that creature. So if they have 1, it's that one. If they have 2, go even odd on a 6-sider. And if they attack with 3 creatures, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on a d6 and split it that way. It's not hard. I mean, it almost has to be the roll of a die. I can't imagine how else it would be randomly. But this is hilarious. I mean, this is like every time you swing at me, you were going to lose at least 1 creature. At least 1. Remember, if you cast Seal Away, they're losing 2. Well, just make sure you cast it after this. This is hilarious. I mean, what are they going to do? Blow up your land? I mean, once this is flipped, it's over. And to remind you, all you had to do to flip this was attack with at least 2 creatures that have first strike, double strike, vigilance, or haste. It's narrow, but in a Mentor deck, this would be hilarious. Next up, okay, seriously, people, why are you not playing this? I'd love to hear any kind of excuse about why you're not playing this. The only thing I've heard is, oh, 5 is too much. Piss off, 5 isn't too much, shut up. So you drop it in for 3 and it does nothing. Oh no, let's go get a better card. Just kidding, this card's amazing. So you can pay 5, exile target creature. Straight up, it's gone. You can do it recurring. If you have 10 mana, go you, do it to 2. If there are 3 or more cards exiled with Profane Procession, you have to transform it. Kind of hints at why this is unbelievably unstoppable that they felt the need to do that. I mean, if it said May, this is basically Teferi's Emblem except for creatures. So what do you get when it flips? Well, you can add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, pretty standard, pretty cool, and then pay 4 and put a creature card exiled with this permanent onto the battlefield under your control. I think there's maybe 2 cards in all of Standard that can stop that effect, because it's not a true summoning. You're just simply placing it onto the battlefield, so you got rid of their Ghalta, cool, now pay 4 and get a Ghalta. The best thing is you don't even have to, but if you had 5, then you clearly have 4, and that's funny to me. You also probably got rid of one of their best creatures. Also, if you don't want to flip it, target their tokens. Those don't stay in exile. It isn't phrased if you exiled 3 or more creatures. It says if there are 3 or more cards exiled with it. Tokens don't sit in the exile zone. So if you're tired of trying to top deck removal and you're like, oh, I finally got a Vraska's Contempt, oh, I finally got a, Cast Down. Just throw this out for 3 and there's your insurance policy. You don't have to draw anything, you just gotta pay. And if you're top decking nothing or lands or whatever, do this. I mean, just think what you would think if somebody slaps this down in the middle of your game. It's basically, well, there goes the 3 most powerful creatures over the next 3 turns. Also, a couple turns later, I'm probably going to get hit by them. Wonderful. Next up, the simplest one on this list, Stormfleet Sprinter. Since everybody's playing this unblockable, Merfolk, Rogue's Gloves, Curious Obsession thing, just remember this one has haste. It's also double the size. I mean, it's not on color, but even in an Izzet deck, this would be kind of funny. He gets destroyed by, everything, and, why do you need to be unblockable in Izzet? You'll just blow up everything that they could possibly block with. But just remember, it exists. There's a 2/2 unblockable with haste. It'd be a shame if somebody cast Sure Strike on him, or, any kind of boost at all. See Red would be fun. Next up, Slaughter the Strong. I feel like I could have made this video 2 months ago. People are forgetting that this is a really effective good board wipe. Especially since it costs 3 instead of 5 like Fumigate did. So both you and your opponent have to sacrifice down to a total of 4 power. If their smallest creature is a 5/5, they have to sacrifice everything. Oh, I'm sorry, was it indestructible and hexproof? That's a shame, bye-bye. You've got to be running the right kind of deck, but even in case of an emergency, if you just want to blow them up down to their mid-sized creature and then you keep 1 good thing and you think that's good enough, like Resplendent Angel or something, go for it. You're running a token deck with no boost? You're going to die to Chain Whirler, but run this. Next up, the card that won me 2 entire rounds at the pre-release, Temple Altasaur. People are playing white dinos. White, obviously color mix, not mono, but this one is crazy. So it's a 3/4 for 5, but if any source of any kind would deal damage to another dinosaur you control, prevent all but 1 of that damage. So the most damage that can be done to a dinosaur is 1. And this just so happens to have 4 toughness instead of 3, so a lightning strike isn't going to stop this. How much you want to bet I said bolt a couple times this video? So yeah, indestructible, unstoppable super dinos. Why not? Next up, Kite Marauder. This is a good sideboard card, but honestly, I could see it mainboarded, especially in an all-flyers deck. That'd be funny. So it's a 2/1 for 2 in the air, which is very good for blue already, but also every single time it attacks, pick 1 creature that defending player controls and it loses all abilities and becomes a 0/1. You might be able to take something crazy and kill it after that, otherwise it just certainly can't block, especially this. It would by default lose flying. I'd say it loses hexproof, but you can't target it in the first place, but it would lose indestructible. It would lose everything, except for boosts from auras and equipment. Speaking of equipment, puts them on this guy. So yeah, this is just kind of fun. It just shuts down their best creature over and over and over while hitting them for 2 in the air. That's just funny to me. And finally, the last one on the list, and this one might surprise you, but well, not if you're playing Arena, because a lot of people are playing this card. It must be free or something, but still. Tulpa Primal Don. This is probably, all things considered, the strongest creature in Standard right now. I think it's even better than the Worms. So I was just playing a game on Arena where I used Disinformation Campaign to force them to discard this on turn 3, and then I hit it with the Eldest Reborn a bunch of turns later and resurrected it on my side. Yeah, they blew themselves up. So, flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, and indestructible, and it's a 4/8, so you are going to be gaining 8 life every single turn. Now this isn't unstoppable, it wouldn't even be fair if it was. It could just get hit by a Seal Away or Act of Treason. Oh my god, I've killed people that way too now that I think about it. I think I've hit it with Water Knot too. A shockingly high number of people are playing this. So it just comes down to, if you have a way to get this out, either ramping or free casting or just whatever, self-mill, resurrect it, who cares? If you can bring this out and you're playing white or whatever, play this card. It is such an unbelievably game over card. I mean, they have to have a very precise way of getting rid of it or they are screwed. So that's it for Rivals. As you can see, all the best cards were in Rivals, not Ixalan. Just kidding, that's not true. There's still some money in Ixalan. You know, there's actually some money in this too. I think both the boxes are like for sure above 90, if not above 100 right now retail. I mean, the Phoenix, certain Planeswalkers, yeah. So yeah, check some of these out. Hopefully you can find a place for them in one of your decks. Thanks for watching, and I should be doing a Dominaria and M19 one. I'm sure M19 will be about 3 or 4 cards. That set wasn't great. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next video.